around 5 o'clock. Just so you know, so you can plan, and then there'll be a 1-hour break. And then at 6 p.m. we have our feature documentary, Hue, about the issue of shadeism, which is basically racism between people in the same culture based on the darkness or lightness of their skin through the NFB. It's a very complex and interesting feature documentary by our director, Vic Sarin, so I encourage you to stay for that. But right now we have a panel on the representation of women in the film industry. Okay, so we have Imogen Grace, Don Wilkinson, Samantha Wan, Farah Merani. I am your moderator, Bobby Del Rio. I am not a woman, but that's why I also feel that, you know, when you're in a position of power, however, you know, small or significant that power is, you have I think an opportunity to and a responsibility to create platforms, you know, for others, right? So what I'm hoping is that we can just get, you know, the conversation that has started already, but keep it going and include you all. So maybe we could go through the panel and maybe just talk about, you know, kind of your bio a little bit in the film industry, just to give context for our audience. Maybe starting with Imogen.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Imogen Grace, and I'm a somewhat emerging filmmaker, meaning writer and director. I started as an actor. I've directed 2 shorts so far, the first being Eddie Meeks and the second being #Cold, which screened at Real World this year. And a short film I wrote a year ago was produced and screened at Real World, and it's called The Haircut. And I'm really excited to be here with you all. And I'm done.
My name is Dawn Wilkinson, and I'm a filmmaker and a TV director. I actually went to U of T and then the Canadian Film Centre, and I made a couple of shorts and worked a bit for the NFB and made my own feature, which won an award at Real World. And then I got into directing television, and I've recently directed episodes of Murdoch Mysteries, Republic of Doyle, and Degrassi.
Hi, I'm Samantha Wan. I'm also a filmmaker. I was originally an actor. I started in theater school, and then I made Second Gen, which some of you might have saw, which is a TV pilot, which I've been pitching for about a year now, and I'm currently making an online series for Omni TV, which is like a kung fu web series.
My name's Farah Merani. I'm also an actress. I'm an actress who wants to work, so I started producing my own content. I was in England for many years, and I moved back to Toronto about 2 years ago, and I just jumped right into producing. And so since then, I've written and produced 2 of my own pieces, as well as numerous other shorts that other people have written and directed. And I also am 1/4 of a group called Women on Screen, which is very relevant for what we're talking about today. It's an organization that is set to promote and support women on all sides of the camera. I came up with that last night. And essentially what that means is that we think of women on screen, so female-driven content, and we often think of women as directors and the lack thereof. But there is an incredible imbalance of women on all fronts of the film industry, and Women on Screen is set to help, or to facilitate and remedy that. So that's what I do. We had a script development series that was like the seed, the roots of it.
Genesis?
Yes, the genesis of it came from a script development series. So now we've kind of grown and expanded and moved forward with it.
Farah was also the female lead in my short, We Each Have Our Armies, which some of you saw 45 minutes ago. Here she is. Okay, so, you know, I guess I'm going to do more listening than talking, which is really rare for me. But for me, I guess in the last couple of years, like meeting, really, like to be honest, like even meeting people like Imogen and Farah, specifically, like you two, like you do a lot of stuff that really made me think about gender. Like in my own writing, the representation of women, and even like who do I choose to put on panels, who do I choose to work with, that kind of thing. And I was like, you know what, I've never created a panel really focusing on the female perspective. So in a way, it's sort of like for me, but I feel like it's a conversation that that our audience is interested in too. If our previous sort of impromptu panel was any indication, right? Like gender issues are very, very important. Okay, so I'm going to start with a very broad question and just anybody take it. It's going to be really, we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to ask people in the audience maybe not to ask questions maybe for about 20 minutes or so, but definitely we'll include you in the conversation. But very broadly, what is it like to be a female, a woman, however you want to identify, in the film industry in Canada today?
I think it's wonderful.
We're done. And we're done. Go home. Thank you very much.
And I say that because these are like the people that I surround myself with in this community are people like I've had a lot of experience with Real World and with Farah and Women on Screen. So I in my own personal community, I'm so surrounded by people that are working every single day to have women be represented on screen. That's my local community, and then in the broader community, I think there's a different story, definitely. And you've worked on network shows, right? So you might have a very different experience of that.
So what's your experience with that?
My experience with
the broader
industry. Broader industry.
Yeah.
Well, going to the movies or browsing through Netflix can be sort of an exercise in masochism sometimes because there's just watching the credits. If you just pay attention to that one thing and just watch the credits for films you watch, it will be like overwhelmingly like 95% one gender. Like 95% is a figure I just came up with, but it's really overwhelming, the disparity there. Or if you look at industry figures, something like 91% of directors of big budget films are male. So 91%, meaning 9% female. And that's really, so the broader industry is a whole different thing, and it's quite, it's astounding to me because my local community is so committed and it's so balanced, and there are women and men alike that are creating a voice for women filmmakers, but that's really not represented in my perspective.
One thing I would like to add to that is within the larger industry, what shocks me are the number of female producers on network TV, on shows. A lot of the most influential producers in the city today are women, but yet I don't see a lot of that female charge translated onto the screen. And I've had this conversation, maybe some of you or you can address this as well.
You'll say something.
Yeah, because there are so many influential women making TV, especially in this country, in this city. But I often wonder if they are held accountable to men who are higher up, or they are part of a machine that they can't get out of. And I wonder if that's something that, we as women we make good producers because we are multitaskers and we are good at people managing and project managing. But when it comes to the actual content development and what audiences want to see, or the filmmakers or TV makers think audiences want to see, I think there's a disparity in that I don't know myself how that can be rectified or bridged. Anyone?
Well, I can't say that I have solutions exactly, but I've sort of reinvented myself as a TV director in the last 4 years, and the first, and that was after many years of trying to get into directing television, because what you find is you want a career, right? You want to do your thing, what I did was I taught part-time for many years. So kind of like from the time I made my first short films and kind of learned some of the basic directing craft, writing craft stuff, I supported myself by teaching part-time at career colleges, and I taught music video production, I taught short film production, I taught anything that they would give me basically, for as long as I could do it. And when I was working on my own projects, I always managed to fit them in and like work with students or work around my teaching schedule. But I really wanted to be doing work with actors, bigger projects, bigger budgets. And it was only when a producer who I knew got a series. I had tried to get on several series. And the reality of it was I didn't have any series credits. So there's directing, which is, you know, set up the shots, talk to the actors, interpret the script, all the stuff that directors do. But if you haven't done it within the context of a TV series, the reality is that TV producers have there is a machine in the sense that they have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time, and it's a risk for them to take on a person who hasn't proven themselves before. That said, everybody has to get an opportunity. You know, directors come from somewhere. Everyone gave somebody a chance at some point, right? So how do you get to be the person that they give a chance to? In my case, my first opportunity came because Jennifer Holness and South Sutherland were making a TV series, and Jennifer Holness went to film school with me and understood that given the opportunity, I would probably deliver. She knew me well enough to know that, right? So it's not that. And then on the other shows that I've gotten, which took time to convince people I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, there is some motivation, I think, on the part of networks and producers they're aware that they don't hire women that much, you know, and they kind of want to, but it's a matter of being able to prove that you have what it takes to deliver their show, and they have a lot of people to choose from who are well established. So it's a creative field, it's a competitive field. In writing, I think, you know, women have gotten a little bit further or a little bit further faster because, you know, you deliver and you spend a period of time in development, and, you know, it's different. Directing is like you're on the floor and you have to direct a whole bunch of people, right? And that means telling everybody what to do and doing it in a way that everything's going to get done. So, I don't know what the answer is, but I know why. I know why it's been hard for me to establish myself, and still I've managed to do it. So it can be done. It's just not. It isn't easy though.
So I actually have a question. Do you think that women tend to shy away from the responsibility of directing and like the intimidation factor, because you're dealing with a virtually all male or mainly male crew, and there's a dynamic shift that happens when a female is leading the charge versus when a man is leading the charge. You want to say something?
I don't know, because after acting as a female, I was concerned at first about like guys taking orders from me. I'm like, will this work out? I don't know. I feel like if you can build the trust with them inside a crew, it's okay. Once I started going out to pitching to bigger executives, I did start having to make sure that I had a guy on my side.
Yeah.
So that if they looked down on me, I had someone else championing me for both my projects. I have a white guy as a producer as well as myself. I do though, because
it's a reality.
Because yes, they really like me, but in the end they don't quite trust me yet, and so they're.
It's like they still see you as a girl, like as a young girl.
Yeah, which fair enough, I am. That's totally fair. So like I think almost like Imogen says, my like immediate place where I have my friends and stuff and my crew, I have built up that trust system. But then once I got out further, I realized I had to get.
Okay, so very quickly, can everybody hear our panelists? Everything is fine? Okay, so so just to jump into the conversation a little bit, that's something I'd never thought of at all, right? You're right. It's like it's mostly men on the crew, and female in a position of power. Now, do any of you have experiences where you've been in a position of power as a female, and you had men who just would not?
Oh, and be undermined completely.
Yeah.
Oh, completely. In fact, recently I produced a short, and it was actually a really balanced crew. We had a female AC, we have a female editor, so like, you know, there was a lot of female presence everywhere. But our DP and our director at one point, they were setting up a shot, and I went to go ask them a question, because I'm learning the technical side for my own benefit, because then I can engage myself in the conversation. I can be part of that conversation. And so I was asking some questions to the AC, and she didn't have the answer, so I went to the DP and I asked him a question about the setup, and he's like, just stick to what you do. Let us take care of this. And I was like, I'm the bleep producer. Like, you have to show me some respect. And when I ask a question, it's not because I'm undermining your job, it's because I want to understand what's going on so that if anybody comes to me with a question, I can then relay that information. But the way that he completely disregarded it made me feel completely disregarded.
And you think it was a gender thing?
He would not have done that. If the first AC had gone to ask him a question, he's a guy. Sorry, second AC, that's assistant camera. If the second AC would have gone to ask him a question, he would have answered it no problem. Because he's part of his immediate team. Even like the girl who was our first AC was having challenges communicating with him because he treated her very differently than he treated the other assistant camera person. And it was obvious to everybody.
Have the rest of you had similar experiences? Subtly, maybe you haven't. Just curious.
I'm trying to think about it because I really haven't had problems with crew, you know? Like, I really haven't. In the beginning, the crews were, like, in the beginning, it was crews that I had worked with in another department, probably. Like, I had worked on some music videos and different departments, and then the first couple of shorts I did was with some of those people, so I already kind of knew them. And then I found that being prepared is really all that crew really care about, and I haven't had a lot of problems. It's a perception. I think I've had to deal with producers who had the perception that maybe I would have a hard time conducting things on the set, but I actually haven't had the experience of any particular crew member, because the way it's set up, like, if they're good, everybody has their role on the set, and if they're good and you're prepared, usually people fall into their role and do their job. Like, I haven't had that problem with crew.
One conversation I had recently